As Biden's unpopularity with voters becomes even more clear, panicky opinion pieces are urging liberal Supreme Court justices who are actually much younger than Biden to retire. I thought that they had dropped this, but no. In one of the latest pieces published in Vox, you have writer Ian Millhiser arguing that Justices Sotomayor and Kagan must retire now. I am begging the justices to learn from Ruth Bader Ginsburg's historic mistake. Now, the piece is titled that, which, I mean, it's pretty clear, right? Urging much younger female Supreme Court justices to resign, to retire early, just so Biden, who is 81 years old and deeply unpopular, can nominate two much younger Supreme Court justices because Trump is gonna win. Like, that's the implication here, right? So the, again, implication is that these justices are too old. They could pass away before another liberal president is able to nominate their replacements. And again, they're notably younger. So Sotomayor turns 70 this month. Elena Kagan is 64 years old. Elena Kagan is 64 years old. Joe Biden is 81 years old. Waz, what am I missing here?
It's just classic liberal BS nonsense. Instead of focusing on the actual task at hand, which is winning an election against Donald Trump, like an eminently beatable candidate. We must say that, like, that doesn't get said enough about Joe Biden's failure to make himself more popular amongst the electorate. Donald Trump himself is not popular. Donald Trump himself has a very low approval rating. Donald Trump is an eminently beatable opponent. So instead of going about the business of actually beating a guy who has all of these horrible fatal flaws that should easily be exploited by a competent campaign and candidate, instead, you apply pressure from your ridiculous opinion page and your stupid job to people who can't feel your pressure. These are lifetime appointments. They can literally just tell everybody, Joe Biden included, the Democratic Party establishment included, to piss off. Like, this is so ridiculous that your idea is not to try to win in November, but to get people who don't have to quit their job to quit their job.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you.
Okay, let's call a spade here. Ian Millhiser does not believe that Biden is gonna get elected. He's very clear about that. He says, quote, "Let's not beat around the bush. It's more likely than not that Donald Trump will return to the White House next year." So he's not criticizing Biden for basically reneging on his promise to not run for a second term when he ran for his first term. He's not urging Biden to drop out and allow for a Democratic candidate who has a better chance at beating Trump to essentially run against Trump. No, he's instead urging much younger Supreme Court justices to go into early retirement so Biden can, in this very moment, nominate two other liberal justices that would take their place. First of all, let me just say, I think it's already a little late in the game, right? Yes, Democrats do have control of the Senate, but Democrats always bungle everything. They'll find a way to bungle it. Even if these two female liberal justices step down today, I would bet money that Democrats would bungle their replacements. Because Republicans always find a way. They fight like hell. They'll find a way to obstruct that process and ensure that those seats in the Supreme Court will remain vacant until Trump is elected, assuming he gets elected. But let me continue. He says that means that if Justices Sotomayor and Elena Kagan remain on the Supreme Court past this year, they risk allowing their seat to be filled by a convicted felon who tried to overthrow the duly elected government of the United States of America, inciting an insurrection at the United States Capitol in the process. Well, Ian, isn't it a little strange that the Democratic candidate the incumbent is having a difficult time beating that guy? Shouldn't your attention be more focused on that issue? He also panics about the likely makeup of the Senate following the election, arguing that Democrats need a miracle to keep their majority in the malapportioned United States Senate. In the likely event that Democrats lose control of the Senate in November, they may not have a realistic chance at regaining the Senate until 2030 or even later. And that's assuming that population shifts do not place the Senate permanently in Republican Party hands. Like, what kind of fear mongering? I just feel like this is a ridiculous exaggeration. Like, he did not make a good case for why he believes the Democrats are definitely gonna lose the Senate. And then he makes it appear as though they are gonna lose the Senate and they might not have control of the Senate until after 2030. I don't know, am I exaggerating here or is he exaggerating? I'm curious, Waz, what do you think?
It's just the typical go-to, right? Instead of going to the source of the actual issue, meaning the electability or the lack thereof of many Democratic candidates out throughout the country, and of course, the presidency, it's always some ridiculous liberal workaround. And quite frankly, Anna, I'm about sick and tired of Supreme Court nomination arguments. I'm actually of the mind that we should delegitimize the entire enterprise, because quite frankly, for its 250 some odd years of existence, it had about 30 years of sanity in the middle of the 1900s and 200 plus years of reactionary craziness. Like if somebody wants to make the argument that like, yo, we should be looking to undermine the Supreme Court, I'd be with that, just generally speaking. But this idea that we need to game the system and ask people who are 20 years younger than Joe Biden to no longer do their job while he's a freaking corpse, dead man walking, running the freaking American global empire, it's ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I guess my issue with this is Ian Millhiser has already jumped to the conclusion that Trump is gonna win.
Because he's a loser,
There's
Anna.
nothing we can do about it, right? And leave Biden alone, okay? Let the 81-year-old corpse run for re-election, even though everyone thought it was a bad idea, until all of a sudden you have, liberals jumping down your throat about ever criticizing Biden when he's a deeply unpopular president, and we all see the iceberg straight ahead. And instead, he's just like, you know what? I'm going to do a public pressure campaign that instead puts the onus on much younger female Supreme Court justices to go into early retirement. That is insane to me. That is insane to me, especially from the party that loves to boast about how much better they are for women compared to Republicans. What they're engaging in right here, this whole piece is sexist as hell. Okay, because it's like, who cares about the much younger women in the Supreme Court? They should go to retirement. You don't want to mess up like, Ruth Bader Ginsburg did, do you? You don't want to be one of those women. All right, do our man Biden a solid and go into early retirement now so he can pick your replacement. I mean, it's disgusting. And by the way, he even acknowledges that losing these specific justices would come at a significant cost, especially considering the relationships that they've cultivated in the nation's highest court, Waz. He writes that Kagan speaks openly about cultivating a relationship with Chief Justice John Roberts, and there is significant evidence that she successfully persuaded Roberts to decide several important cases narrowly instead of handing down a sweeping conservative victory. Sotomayor sometimes teams up with Gorsuch, the most libertarian of the court's Republicans in criminal justice cases. And there are some early signs that Sotomayor may be forming a productive bond with Barrett. So the idea is, you forge these relationships and you have some persuasive power as a result of those relationships. So the damage that could be done by the conservative justices is kind of tempered. But no, let's get rid of these much younger female justices, okay? Because the 81-year-old should pick replacements for them now. while he hasn't.
By the way, Anna, are we sure Biden can get this thing done?
That's what I'm saying.
By
no,
January?
We're not sure. We're not sure. We're not sure.
Like, what indication do we have of his administration that they're so good at whipping everybody into shape, getting in line, and pushing something like this? Like, is Joe Biden gonna be alive to do this? Like, guys, like he's talking about basically the fragile mortality of these women who are 64 and 70. And it's like the elephant in the room is like, will Joe Biden be able to see this through? Like, do we even know? It's nuts. It's absolutely insane.
It is insane. And
by the way, and how is this better than just having 4 years to find somebody better suited to running for president of the United States?
That's what I'm saying, Waz. That's the thing that drives me nuts. It's like we're all expected to bow our heads because Biden decided, no, he is the best possible candidate to beat Donald Trump. They didn't allow for Democratic primaries. We all know that. I mean, Florida didn't allow for Democratic primaries. Other states followed suit. So Biden was forced on Democratic voters and independent voters. Remember, the kingmakers in these elections tend to be independent voters and constituents in the swing states. And the polls are not looking good for Biden. They haven't been looking good for Biden for months and months and months. And instead of addressing that, you have this piece, again, putting the onus on much younger individuals to resign in order to lessen the blow of a Biden loss. It is absurd to me beyond words, and I can't stand it.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.